have been Sandusky'd. That was my immediate reaction after I saw the Chiefs-Packers game, and here's why. Now, all this year as Christian started to build what he does every year, which is his super team of drafting or trading up for a lot of players on the same team. Last year it was the Colts. He had like Manning, Wayne, Garcon, Clark, Adai, and their defense. He basically finds a team that he likes. Usually it's from the quarterback he drafts, and he puts all of his eggs in one basket. And when that team has a good week, his team, fantasy team that is, kills. Now, after I saw that the Chiefs beat the Packers and the Packers didn't put up any points, I immediately thought that it was Aaron's game to win and that Christian didn't have a fighting chance. And come to find out, it wasn't, because when I pulled up my fantasy football on my computer, I saw this garbage. Record-breaking suck, 51 points. One player with double digits, and Christian wins. TWIF Week 5, the rise of Sea Gouch. It's continued. This is Rampy's game to win. He's in the clear. He starts Tony Iametta and loses to Christian. This was Christian's one bad week that we knew it was coming, and he still somehow won. Now this isn't, I wouldn't blame like all this on Rampy. A lot of this is just bad luck, but I mean, here's my message to Rampy. Don't give up. You still have the third place game to play for. So that was the shocker, and I believe that was the game of the week, is Sea Gouch and record breaking, scoring the two lowest points. And then as far as the consolation bracket goes, I beat TX Nurse 89 to 116. Pink Floyd Panthers over at Injury Plague Clap for Bacon 104 to 95. And Disco Hobbit's Best Spencer, the USC Athlete Compensation Fund, 108 to 129, which me and Ben both incorrectly predicted. But I think after Spencer beat Disco once, it kind of put us in a mindset if he can do it again, when in reality Disco's just so damn good. If you look at Disco's team when I did my power rankings video, he had a lot of question marks, like who knew Jimmy Graham was going to be that great? LaShawn McCoy's injury prone. Ray Rice gets touchdowns taken from him usually every year, but this year he didn't. Usually the Ravens have some other red zone threat that kind of leeches off of his touchdown output. AJ Green, huge question mark. Worked out great for him. You know, his kicker has worked out. The Saints have had kicker problems in the past. I believe he has the Saints kicker. But he's had a great year. So, I've said this before. Whenever you have a juggernaut fantasy team, this is usually how it happens. You draft some good big names, and then the question marks that you draft turn out to be great. Very rarely do you see someone that drafts like all phenomenal names, because, you know, any idiot can draft big names. In order for your team to be great, you have to have a mixture of luck, activeness on the waiver wire, and smart drafting. That's probably the three things I would rank fantasy football owners in, is activeness on the waiver wire, drafting, and probably trading up, because you can't really rank luck. But my MVPs this year, because the last game can't really influence that much. You know, we've seen 15 weeks of fantasy football. My MVPs for the waiver wire, my MVP for the waiver wire is like the MVP for the Gold Glove for pitchers. Greg Maddux is going to win it every year, and it's Ben, the fantasy genius. He makes the most consistently outrageous and like well-working waiver wire pickups every year. He's so active. He basically micromanaged his team to death early in the year. That, coupled with really unfortunate injuries, probably is why he's in the consolation bracket with me instead of the playoffs. But he's definitely been the best on the waiver wire. although Spencer has been very good too. My trade MVP has got to be Spencer. He made a great deal with me to get Steve Smith when he was buy low. He made a great deal with Rampy to get S-Jax. He made a great deal with Ben to get Arian Foster. He's basically turned his above-average team into a great team, and although he didn't make the Super Bowl, I hate to use the word proud because it makes me sound like a fanboy, but it's his first year and he's done a hell of a job. Props to him. And my draft MVP is going to have to go to, no, not myself, but Disco Hobbits. I mean, Drew Brees, LaShawn McCoy, Ray Rice, great pickups. I don't know Disco in real life like I do most of the people in our league, so I don't know really what he was thinking, but, I mean, it worked. And then Hakeem Nicks and A.J. Green, guaranteed touchdowns. Jimmy Graham, he was top 5 in receiving for the first 10 weeks. Good kicker, good defense. Hats off to him. I hope to see him in the league back next year because he's active and he's not an asshole. So those are my MVPs for the year as far as my 3 categories, waivers, trades, and drafting goes. So let's jump into our normal preview, which will be the Super Bowl preview for this week. This will be a good one. Me and Ben. Kind of a friendly rivalry, not really a really, Yankees-Red Sox-ish one like him and Cameron have, but this is a good one. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. So let's jump right in. Matthew Stafford and Cam Newton. And this video is probably going to be longer than normal because I'm going to be reflecting on the year a little bit more than usual. Like, instead of just evaluating like, oh, Newton will do better than Stafford this week, it's going to be like, well, he was good this year. I picked up Matthew Stafford pretty late in the draft, and it was a great pickup. And I'm not trying to pump myself up, but I saw something in him. I think he only missed 2 weeks with injury, and that was just a solid pickup by me. Now, Ben made a really good trade to get Cam Newton, and Seagouch picked him up, so, props to Seagouch. But I'd have to say Cam Newton's a better quarterback than Stafford just because of his rushing yards. Although, if you want to go for consistency, Stafford's your guy. LeGarrette Blount and Michael Turner. Turner's shitty year has cost me several games. He's been really disappointing. It's looking like the Falcons have turned to more of a pass-first offense, and that's frustrated Turner owners all year. Because it's not like he's getting 150 yards and he's not punching it in. He's getting shitty yard output and he's not punching it in too. So like, when I expect 15 out of Turner, he'll run for 60 with no TD. And as far as Blunt, he's pretty on and off, and a typical example of why you should try to draft running backs high, because you don't want to have that question mark. MJD will outperform Chris Johnson, leads the league in rushing, he gets yards and touchdowns. Chris Johnson had a really shitty year, but Ben salvaged him. Kind of took him from Cameron right before he went off. I don't know how Ben does it, but he does it. Dez, touchdown machine. Jason Garrett likes to work him into his offense. And it's nice to have a Cowboy because although the Panthers are my favorite team, the Cowboys are my second favorite, and they're always televised, unlike the Panthers. So it's nice to be able to watch a Cowboy game with special interest in mine. He'll outperform Stevie Johnson, who's on a Bills team that everyone was proclaiming to be, playoff bound and all this garbage, and now they're 5-9, and those people probably feel like idiots. Advantage Dez. Macklin and Colston. I don't like Saints receivers, as you guys know, but Colston will outperform Macklin. Selleck and Pettigrew. These NFL idiots can sit here and project tight ends for all these points. I think Selleck was projected 2 when he went off for 21. Pettigrew's the same way. Like, you project him high, he'll do nothing. Advantage Selleck. Spiller and Jackson. So not only is Spiller more consistent, I just hate Vincent Jackson. David Akers and Jason Hanson, sorry. David Akers is probably going to set a record for most field goals kicked this year. He's an unstoppable force. He's a nightmaric beast. The 49ers have the worst red zone conversion percentage for touchdowns this year. And a good thing they have David Akers. He's a large part of why they have such a good record. And then Bengals defense and Houston defense. Great pickup by Ben. Houston defense has the edge. And I'm going to have to say, if Michael Turner comes up big, I get the game. If he turns out shitty and goes limp on me like Nicky D, then it's Ben's game to win. TX Nurse and Clap 4. Clap 4 has been destroyed by injuries, and TX Nurse has done a lot to get better. So, let's look at this one. Matt Ryan, pretty good year. I'm giving him the advantage over Phillip Rivers, who hasn't done shit. Ahmad Bradshaw splits time, and the Giants are also very pass-heavy, so Ced Benson gets the edge. I really hate to see this. I think it puts on a bad example, and I hate to assume, but Kevin started at least one inactive guy in the last 2 weeks, and he's the commissioner. So I can only assume he's going to start Fatgrim and he's not going to play. So advantage Michael Bush. Brandon Lloyd, great pickup. Deshaun Jackson's quit like when Randy Moss gets jammed. Advantage Brandon Lloyd. Megatron, he can 33 points last week. If anyone can compete with Julio Jones' tremendous upside, it's Calvin Johnson. Advantage Megatron. There's really not too many. Sorry, that derp. Probably the two most overrated tight ends right here, Winslow and Keller. Advantage Winslow, though. Keller's just so shitty. Andre Johnson and Gaffney. I think the Texans are going to shut Johnson down just for the mere fact that they need him for the playoffs. God, I hope they do. It would be stupid if they didn't. So advantage Gaffney. The Rams are on like their 15th string quarterback. So I don't expect too much point production out of Josh Brown. Advantage Neil Rackers. Come here, Fabian. Cowboys D over Jets D. I think Eli Manning is going to tear the Jets up. Now, here's the third place game. It'll be a good one. The geniuses at NFL.com have them projected for both 119 points, both Spencer and Aaron. Okay. Tim Tebow and Tom Brady. Advantage Brady. I mean, come on. Brady's going to get the touchdowns. Tebow's going to get his points, but not as much upside. Barber has the advantage over Felix because of Felix's injury and the fact that he's a piece of shit. If you're a Cowboy fan, you saw Felix Jones' potential when he was drafted and he would bust off for big runs. It just seems like he never does that anymore. Murray's a far superior running back, and Jones, if he goes into the game with any hint of injury, I'll be surprised if he finishes. Advantage Barber. Arian Foster over the three-way timeshare of Danny Woodhead. That's just common sense, I think. Jordy Nelson over Steve Smith because even though Jordy Nelson might get pulled, I think that Rodgers will find him a couple times, especially with Jennings out. Santana Moss and Welker. Moss is having big games, and it's going to be closer than you think, but I'm still going to have to give it to Welker. Just because Welker is a yard machine and Brady's favorite target. Tony Gonzalez and Jermaine Gresham. It's a good pickup. Jermaine Gresham by Aaron. Tony Gonzalez is just a future Hall of Famer touchdown machine. At advantage Gonzalez. Great trade up by Spencer. And I think Aaron's going to notice how much talent he traded to Spencer in this game. Darius Thomas. The trade and waivers, Spencer and Ben are both very active, and this was a great pickup by Spencer. Although, Laurent has an injury, so Thomas is going to get the advantage. But you want to talk about good pickups? Rampy and Laurent Robinson before anyone knew anything about him. Caps off to him, because Robinson's been a touchdown machine. And whenever Rampy texted me about Laurent Robinson, I laughed at him, and I was totally off base. Dan Bailey, top tier kicker, come on. I'm giving him the advantage over anyone but Akers. Although the Cowboys could suck massive chode and choke it up against the Eagles, I sure hope not. But they could. I mean, did you see that last game? And then Broncos D over Tennessee Titans D. I mean, Von Miller's a nightmaric beast. Straight up legend from Texas A&M University. I say Denver Broncos get a few turnovers and outperform the Titans. Could I give the game of the week to anything but the championship? Even though NFL.com is projecting Spencer to lose to the approximate score of 80 to 150, I think you have to look at this one even closer. Because it is the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees. Drew Brees is playing for more, and Rodgers runs the risk of being pulled because the Packers have already basically clinched. So I think if you're Seagouch, you definitely want the Packers game to be close and high scoring so Rodgers doesn't get pulled. But because there's that risk, advantage Brees. It's kind of like when you have a really good player and an average player, or not a really good player, but a good player, and the good player is questionable, you're almost better going with the mediocre player so you don't get burned by the potential injury or not play factor. Right, this is where Christian's going to get hurt, but in the running back core. Ray Rice is better than Peyton Hillis, who is a total embarrassing bust, and just, really, if Peyton Hillis had a great year, that would have made my fantasy team look great. But he didn't, as y'all know, and you can't win them all, but that really hurt a lot of Peyton Hillis owners, is the fact that 2 good weeks, then he had his little strep throat bullshit, and it just went downhill from there. Advantage Ray Rice. Sorry, my dog's being obnoxious. LaShawn McCoy over Ben Tate because the Cowboys couldn't stop LaShawn McCoy, although Tate is getting more action than a lot of people think. Percy Harvin screwed a lot of people over last week with his poor performance. I wouldn't expect another one. I think he'll outperform Torrey Smith, who's pretty boom or bust, but a great pickup by Disco. I love A.J. Green, no homo. I think he's a great player. The Bengals are they're on the bubble of the playoffs. I think he'll outperform Victor Cruz this week, I really do. Cruz is going against the incredibly overrated corner tandem of the Jets. But I don't care. A.J. Green and Andy Dalton are looking like a great tandem for future years. Jeremy Graham and Jermichael Finley. If you own Jermichael Finley, you probably don't want to own Jermichael Finley because he's an inconsistent shit-eater. He's totally frustrating. He'll win you a game 1 week and then lose 3 more for you. Jimmy Graham has been a huge part of Disco's record, and I'm going to have to give Graham the advantage. Ryan Matthews and Lance Moore. Any consistent running back that gets consistent touches is going to probably be picked over a Saints receiver by me just because of how much a crapshoot the Saints are. John Casey over Stephen Gostkowski. That's just the way this works. You know, Casey has helped Disco out so much this year. Spencer pointed this out to me. If you have a good defense and a good kicker, it helps so much. Because if you look at games you win, I just find this true for myself, it seems like your kicker and defense combine for at least 25. And then when you lose, that 20 or so points you need, your kicker scores 5 and your defense does nothing. It's just an underrated part of fantasy football. And how many times do you see kickers being traded? You don't. And David Akers is all powerful. That's as much as you need to know about kickers. Although Dan Bailey and Jason Hansen are both up there, that you can't beat David Akers. He's that good. And I'm gonna have to give the Ravens D the advantage because they're playing for more, and I think the Packers are prone to give up more like BS yards towards the end of the game, where I think the Ravens are going to be fighting tooth and nail for their game, and it will be more low scoring. That was TWIF Week 16. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I hope y'all leave a comment. I'm out.